Welcome to Let's Bet. I'm your host, Scott Pritchard. Let's Bet is about sports betting, sides, totals, money lines. I've been betting sports professionally full-time in Las Vegas for 30 years. I'm going to show you how I do it. It's July 4th weekend, a time to celebrate Independence Day. Joining me, my co-host, a guy who knows a thing or two about celebrating, Jacob Cannon.
I just want to celebrate another day of living, baby. I just want to celebrate another day of life and a beautiful day here in Las Vegas, Nevada.
Love the attitude. We'll be checking back with Jacob a little bit later on in the show. To reach out to us a couple of different ways. One, email us at letsbet@vegasvideonetwork.com. That's letsbet@vegasvideonetwork.com. We also have a toll-free listener line, 866-966-4599. 866-966-4599. Now let's go ahead and get started. It's time for tips and terminology. Opening numbers, that's the topic. This past week, the Las Vegas Hilton Superbook posted opening numbers for pro football. It's never too early to talk about pro football. Now the question might be, is there value in betting in July opening numbers for the first week in pro football in September? And I would have to say it depends. A good bet is a good bet is a good bet. Having said that, I generally do not bet 2 months out. The idea is there's opportunity to bet today. There are games today. I will be betting a ton of games between now and when football comes around. Let's go ahead and dissect a couple of those games for opening weekend for pro football. And talking about the Green Bay Packers. They're at home against the New Orleans Saints. Packers are favored by 5.5 points. Interesting because these two teams won the last 2 Super Bowls. Now, a trend has been developed over the past few years. The team that wins the Super Bowl, they do outstandingly well the following year in the first game, ATS against the spread. Just take a look at that game. Green Bay Packers minus the 5.5 hosting the New Orleans Saints. Let's talk about the Atlanta Falcons, a team that they were seeded number 1 in the NFC Conference a year ago. They're on the road taking on the Chicago Bears. The game is a pick'em. Some other high-profile games opening weekend in pro football. The Pittsburgh Steelers at the Baltimore Ravens, the division contest. Now there's another trend. The Super Bowl loser for the past 10 years has not fared well ATS against the spread that first week. Now I look at this game. This is the one game I would consider stepping out and betting. The line, 2.5. Baltimore at home favored by a short number, 2.5 against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now these two teams split last year, and in the playoffs, Baltimore, they were up 21-7 before losing to the Steelers 31-24. Baltimore, very good running team, very good defense. They're at home, they're hungry, and like me, they hate the Pittsburgh Steelers. Let's talk about the Denver Broncos. They're at home against the Oakland Raiders at the Superbook at the Las Vegas Hilton right here in beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada. The Denver Broncos are a 1-point favorite. The New York Giants opening weekend, they travel to Washington taking on the Redskins. Giants are favored by 3. The New England Patriots, a team that went 14-2 a year ago, despite the fact they had a horrific defense, the Patriots are favored by 4 on the road against the Miami Dolphins. The Dallas Cowboys, they're traveling opening weekend. They're at the Jets. Jets at home favored by 4 points. So let's address opening numbers. Here we are in July, 2 months before the regular season gets underway. Generally, I will not bet simply because, again, there are so many games, so many opportunities on a day-in, day-out basis over the next 2 months. But one thing to keep in mind, if you're going to step out and bet, look at key numbers. I talked about the Baltimore Ravens. That would be the one exception I might consider tying up the money, only because 3 is such a key number. We've talked many times on this show that 15% of all pro football games are decided by 3. This past year, 18% of all pro football games were decided by a field goal. So if you see that number start to go to 3, you might step up and lay the 2.5. Very, very significant. That's going to wrap up this edition of Tips and Terminology on Let's Bet. Before we come back with Let's Bet Answers Your Questions, we're going to take a quick station ID break. We'll be right back.
No pressure. Hi, I'm Dennis Silvers from Can't think of the name of my damn show. Golf and other four-letter words, and you're watching the Vegas Video Network, I think.
Welcome back to Let's Bet. I'm your host. We can be heard live every Friday morning, 11 o'clock Las Vegas time. Some exciting news. Vegas Video Network. All the shows can be heard on AM 1400 KSHP radio Friday nights from 6 o'clock until 10 o'clock. It's time now for Let's Bet answers your questions. I mentioned earlier we have a listener line, comment line, where we pick off questions to address live every Friday morning. That number again, 866-966-4599. Jacob, come on back. Do we have any questions this week, my friend? Something tells me that we do.
We've got a bevy of beautiful questions here, but first, there's a question from the live chat. Nate wants to know, I guess touching upon the NFL season, he wants to know, will there be an NBA season due to the lockout that just recently happened?
The question is, will there be pro basketball this year? I guess the bigger question is there going to be pro football? Right now we're locked out in both sports. I really believe that we will have a pro football season long before we'll have a pro basketball season. I really think with the NFL season basically within 6 weeks of preseason starting, I think the closer we get, I think the owners and or the players will definitely step up. I think we'll have pro football this year. I just had a conversation 2 days ago over at lunch with Smokin' Dave Koken, and we were having this very same conversation. The question was, gosh, do you think that we'll have a pro basketball season? That threat, that lockout to me is much more serious, and the season is definitely at stake. I'm the eternal optimist, and I really question if we're going to have pro basketball or not. I do think we'll have an NFL pro football season. Regardless, my friends, we will have college football and we will have college basketball.
Awesome. An email question here from Chin, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, from Henderson, Nevada. What is the most that you've ever seen a line move?
It's a pretty fair question. You know, you'll talk about sides and totals, and with sides, the sides do not move quite as much as they do with, say, totals. But the most I've ever seen in recent memory as far as a total, maybe 6-7 points, which is extremely significant, and more times than not that has to do with the weather forecast. You know, you might have the total on a college football game hypothetically on a Tuesday, and the total is 48, but wait, Hurricane Wilma is due to arrive sometime this weekend around game time, and they'll either take it off the board or they'll reopen it 6-7 points later. Now, more times before it becomes common knowledge or the public has wind of this, so to speak, you'll see that it'll go from 48, it'll already start moving. And it's like, wow, why is it? And it's like, wow, now the forecast comes out, the whole world knows, they take it off and they reset it at 41. So you can imagine if you bet under 48 and over 41, you have a 7-point middle. But to answer the question, the most I've seen in recent memory, 6 to 7 points on a total, and more times than not it has to do with weather, another concern that might cause a line, namely a total, to move that drastically if there are a number of suspensions due to academic reasons or other reasons as well. Jacob?
Okay. Philip from Great Falls, Montana wants to know, do you bet on sports every day? And if so, in one given day, how many bets do you make?
I've mentioned before, Philip from Montana. Do you have satellite TV in Montana, by the way? Are you able to watch games? I will say there's a new thing called the internet that you might want to check out. I track a lot of games on the internet. I catch a lot of games on satellite. And to answer the question, yes, I generally bet every single day. They play the Star-Spangled Banner 365 days out of the year. I realize the whole world, for all intent and purpose, they bet college and pro football, college and pro baseball. A lot of people take the summer off and don't bet baseball. I'm not one of those people. I love baseball because it's a numbers game. It's big on stats, the subtleties of the game. Oftentimes, I know my wife, for instance, says to me, honey, baseball is so boring. I understand that. The less you know about baseball, I can see why you would say that. But the more you know about baseball, honey, I'm not calling you an idiot. I'm hoping Robin's at work and she's not watching this show. But speaking very candidly, I love baseball because it's every single day, opportunity to make money in so many different ways to bet it on a daily basis. But yes, I bet every day. But if things start to go south, if I am not in the groove, if things aren't quite going the way I'd like to see them go for whatever reason, I'll take a break. My job as a professional sports bettor is to find value, spot my picks, pick my spots. The odds maker, his job, his job is to post a number and a side and total on every single game. His job is challenging, but that's why he gets the rub, he gets the juice, he gets the vigorish. Anything else, Jacob? I'll stop it right there, abruptly.
There's a live chat question here, and they want to know the odds on Robin letting you back in the house tonight.
Well, I'm a dog player, and actually I'm just a dog. That's a good question. I'd hate to lay the odds on that one.
Well, I think it was a lay the favorite or take the dog type question. I didn't know which one we were doing.
It's lay the favorite.
Or taking the dog. I wasn't sure.
Next question.
Next question here. Brian from Oak Bluff, Canada. Oh, Canada. Do you bet on UFC events?
I do not. Some people do. It's head-to-head, and really, I'm not opposed to it. It really has to do with what is the price. For instance, if you have fighter A fighting fighter B. If it's minus 30 and plus 20, if I can get plus 35 or minus 25 where I'm grinding out scalping, getting 5, 10, 15 cents, the best of it, I'm not opposed to it. But for the most part, I don't try and bet on anything that I'm not well versed at. I understand the popularity of UFC fighting, and I understand that it's increased in terms of popularity from a betting standpoint, but me personally, I don't follow it, so I don't bet it.
Gotcha. Last question here, and I guess it kind of touches on this other question. John from Topeka, Kansas wants to know, do you bet on horse racing, or do you not consider that a sport?
I consider it a sport. I do not bet horse racing because, remember, if Pittsburgh is playing Baltimore, one of two things is going to happen. One team is going to win, and one team is going to lose. I'm a genius. That's all you need to know. But with horse racing, there are 7 other horses that can beat you. The other thing is with sports betting, basically the main professional sports, football, baseball, basketball, you have basically a 10-cent vigorish or juice, the house's edge. But in horse racing, you're talking about the cut going to the jockey, to the horse, to the trainer, to the track. So many things are taken out. Even when you win, you lose, in my opinion. But I do have very savvy professional sports betting friends who love horse racing, and they do tend to find an edge. But generally speaking, I stay away from it. That's going to wrap up this edition of Let's Bet Answers Your Questions. For my good friend Jacob Cannon, I'm Scott Pritchard. We're live every Friday morning, 11 o'clock Las Vegas time. Be sure and check out the listener comment line. We'd like to get your questions on the air. 866-966-4599. That's 866-966-4599. You can email us at letsbet@vegasvideonetwork.com. That's letsbet@vegasvideonetwork.com. My website is pritchardspicks.com. That's pritchardspicks.com. This holiday weekend, Jacob, any final comments? What are you doing this weekend?
I'm going to try to drink some cold beer, watch some fireworks, and get some sleep.
Just another weekend for you then, it sounds like. There's no difference between last weekend, this weekend, or the weekend after, but great having you with us. Let's Bet. Also keep in mind, every Friday night from 6 to 10, KSHP Radio, AM 1400, catch all the shows from the Vegas Video Network. For my good friend and co-host Jacob Cannon, I'm Scott Pritchard. I'm going to leave you with the words my first wife left me with. Good luck and goodbye.